Welcome back to another video. This week we are going to talk about my desk setup. So this is my setup here in New York with an awesome view, as you can see. But this year I haven't done a proper setup tour. There have been some changes, some great little upgrades, and honestly, a lot of it has been on a budget. So I'm really excited to share with you what I use to stay productive and get things done, be it from creator stuff to finance stuff. So let's get right into it and see what's new and what's remained the same. There are, like I said, some changes. So one of the biggest changes that you actually can't see here is my new keyboard. So this, I'll put it in front of my face, is the Logitech MX mechanical keyboard for Mac. It is the mini, so it does not have the number pad on the right side, which I kind of regret not getting because I regretted not having it when I was using just the Apple Magic keyboard. But I do like having a small form factor. I got a great deal on it. The build has been really good, and there's a lot of features that are very useful when it comes to this keyboard. Not only the mechanical keys, but so many other things. So this keyboard is, like I said, mechanical, but it's also illuminated in one color, white. So it is not like an RGB keyboard like Logitech also makes, but it does illuminate at night with the keys, not just the backs of the keys. And I do like that. You can have different different lighting schemes. So it can have a wave, it can do, random keys and such. So there's a bit of customizability, but what I like about this keyboard is it is more for productivity. It's a clean look. I did have a white keyboard previously, but I do have another Logitech product I'll get to in a bit that does match the color of this, so that is why I went with the darker color. And I do think this does look a bit cleaner, a bit simpler. The white one does accentuate a few of the buttons more, whereas although this does have darker gray accents, they blend in a lot better. So getting to some of the features of this keyboard, it does charge via USB-C, and you can switch between 3 different devices very easily. You just program it to one of the 3 hotkeys up here on the function row, and you can switch between your MacBook, maybe you have a Mac Studio, or your iPad, or even your iPhone, just any devices. So I share my setup with my significant other, and so we have their MacBook set up to number 2 and such. So it makes it really easy to share setups, and you do have a lot of other keys on here, like an emoji key, screenshot key, you have all your media controls, volume up, volume down, and such. So really nice, and dictation. So the build of this keyboard is kind of a hybrid. You do have polycarbonate or plastic on the back with feet that do extend, so you can see there. But it also has a metal finish on the top of the keyboard, so you do get a bit of that more premium feel. And it has the new Logi branding instead of Logitech. But overall, I do love the feel of this keyboard, going back to a mechanical keyboard, which I was using a little bit before at work. So just having a bit of a more productivity-focused keyboard that is still mechanical. You get that good feel, you get that good sound. And actually, let's listen to it right here. It's not super loud, but it's loud enough that you just get that satisfying sensation. And yeah, so that is probably the newest addition to my setup, the Logitech MX Mini Mechanical, or Mechanical Mini for Mac. Now, in terms of peripherals, I did mention I have a matching device, and that would be the MX Master. So this is a very common productivity mouse. The MX Master is probably one of the best, if not the best, overall mouse I have found. This is actually the original. So you can see the design is a bit different from the 3S, which currently exists now, but overall a lot of the functions are the same. You can still switch between 3 devices. You can use Logitech unifying receivers, just like you can also with the keyboard, or Bluetooth. By the way, keyboard also connects via Bluetooth. This device also has function buttons here, back and forward buttons, horizontal scroll, and a really nice scroll wheel will be kind of multifunctioned in the sense that when you scroll really quickly, it'll roll freely, or if you're scrolling slowly, it will click through each scroll. So I really like that. One of the downsides of this older model is it still uses micro USB to charge, and now everything has moved to USB-C. Almost all my devices are USB-C, so I still gotta hold out and keep one micro USB cable around, but this mouse is just so good, and I've had no reason to upgrade it. It has held up really well over time. It hasn't gotten super shiny, which is good because a lot of people's will get shiny due to greasy hands and such, but I think this one has held up pretty well. You can be the judge of that. But I don't only use this mouse. I also use a Magic keypad, or a Magic, oh gosh, what is this called? Well, I use an Apple Magic Trackpad. There you go. Because for video editing, it's actually a lot easier. I like it a lot more for that. The force touching and such is something I use kind of often. And sometimes I just enjoy using it. It's really cool to use this with a desktop, where normally the only time you would use a trackpad is on your laptop or your MacBook. Ergonomically, not great. My hands will cramp using it, so I don't use it a ton, but when I do need it, it's vital. So yeah, kind of a random touch. Also still charges with Lightning, so you do have that. But yeah, Apple Magic Trackpad 2, I think. Pretty good device, lasts a very long time on the battery. I will mention all of these devices do last very long on their batteries. I hardly ever charge them. It would be maybe a couple times throughout the year, so do have that in mind. Now, some of the more fun items on my desk are these IKEA plants. Of course, they are fake. They look quite fake, but if you just took a quick glimpse, they're not. I like adding a bit of color to the desk setup, and because I travel a lot, having plants sometimes is difficult. So I like just having these fake plants around. It's fun and adds a little something to the setup. I think I would rather have real succulents and maybe a real tree. So I'll definitely have to invest in something like that in the future. But just having these little plants that are like $5, $10 for a pack of 3 really bring a little aspect of the outdoors inside in this concrete jungle. Something I use often on my desk is actually my iPad Pro. So I do have the iPad Pro 12.9 inch with an Apple Pencil, and I do have actually the keyboard case, but I use that the most, but I've been trying to use just a folio. I use this device for a lot of my photo editing or thumbnail creation. So without this, you wouldn't see those amazingly interesting thumbnails for sure. And I do love blue, and this is just like the perfect color version of blue. Now, let's talk about some bigger items on the desk. Of course, I do have a desk mat here. It's just a very cheap Amazon desk mat. It has 2 colors, and I use the gray to contrast with the brownness of my desk. But of course, you're probably looking at my monitor here. So this is an LG UltraWide WQHD monitor. I actually got it from Costco for about $250. So some of you might say, wow, that's a lot of money. Or some of you might say, wow, that's not a lot. Well, I think it's a great value for money in terms of the ultra-wide monitors. It is not only just better than full HD or 1080p, but also it is curved slightly, and I do like that a little bit. And the size is perfect for my desk. It's not too cluttered. I don't have to have multiple monitors anymore, especially because the computer, which we'll talk about later, doesn't support what I would ideally want, which is 3 monitors. But in any case, it has been a fantastic monitor. It does have a matte finish on the display to help reduce glare. Of course, that means it's also not as sharp looking, but it's very minimal, and most people would not realize, especially when you're doing more productivity work, such as emails, internet browsing, or using Excel, PowerPoint, Word, things like that. on the productivity side, this is a wonderful monitor, and having the ultra wide really makes it hard to go back to anything else. Just being able to have two monitors essentially in one, and having Windows be on the same display at full capacity instead of having kind of smaller ones. So using Final Cut Pro and also file browsers and Windows and other things on the left side make it really a great monitor for my workflow. Now, those are some nice things about the monitor, but I do have a few gripes. So one of those is it does not have USB-C power delivery, which means I cannot simply plug my MacBook straight into the display and have the display not only show what is on the computer, but also charge my Mac. So I do currently have it connected via HDMI. It does have two HDMI ports, a display port, USB port, but unfortunately, if I connect something such as a Xbox Series X, which I have, it does not show up well on this display. It does not make it in a native format for the Xbox. It simply stretches it out, which is a bit unfortunate. So I cannot use it as a gaming monitor for a traditional console, and I don't really do PC gaming, so I'm not too sure how it would handle that. However, this display does support 120 hertz of refresh rate, so it does have a great refresh rate. That was something important to me, so still maintaining that is very important just for fluidity of your workspace. One really little upgrade to my setup has been hugely important, and that is this. It is very low tech, and it is this little, not even device, but just holder. So with the new iPhones having MagSafe and a new continuity camera feature, I use my iPhone very commonly as my webcam. And the microphones are great on the iPhone, as you know. The cameras are wonderful, as you know. And just being able to attach your iPhone via MagSafe to this mount, and it being weighted enough that if I put it on top of my monitor, it does not fall when I attach my iPhone 15 Pro Max to it, has been really legendary because I don't have to have a webcam. I don't need to open up my computer to take calls via video, and I just get a more professional and better quality experience when taking important Zoom calls or work calls. Now, one item that I think no one else has as part of their setup is a Microsoft Teams dock, which I have right here. This is a very unique piece of tech I bought randomly because it was on sale. And I thought it actually would fit my setup perfectly, which it does. So what is the Microsoft Teams dock? Well, essentially, it is an array of microphones with a speaker tuned for voice. So not a lot of media consumption is going through this speaker, but for voice, it's fantastic. With a dedicated Microsoft Teams button, mute button, and volume controls on the top, which do still work with my Mac. I don't know if you can see that, but it is adjusting the volume with a play pause button on the top. That also acts as my one cable solution for my Mac. So like I mentioned, my display does not support power delivery. And I really wanted to keep a clean setup, a one cable solution. Well, this kind of gives me that in a roundabout way. So I can connect via USB-C with one cable to my Mac and charge it and power, well, not power, but run the HDMI from my display into the dock, which then, you know, connects my laptop's display to here. So I can dock my MacBook closed on a little holder I have on my desk, and so I can keep it very minimalist in terms of cables and really manage those cables, especially because this is a standing desk. I'll get to that in a minute, but just going back to the Microsoft dock, the audio quality is really great for doing those calls, and you also have a USB input as well, so if you had to add maybe the unifying receiver for the keyboard and mouse, you could do that, and then every time you put a new device plugged into that USB cable, you could maintain the usability of your peripherals without having to pair them again with a new computer because they are plugged into the dock. So that's a little feature, I would say, that is very useful, especially if you're sharing this dock, because you could have two Logitech devices connected to a unifying receiver plugged into the dock, and every time you just switch computers, you don't have to worry about switching your peripherals to that new computer. They're already going to work because they're technically wired into that computer. And of course, like I mentioned, HDMI goes through, power delivery goes through, does support enough power. I believe it's 90 watts to the laptop while plugged in, so it definitely covers the necessary power for my laptop. Even when video editing, there is no need to plug in a separate power source. Now, getting to this desk has been fantastic. I've always had kind of more convoluted desks with tons of drawers and a lot going on. This is the most simple setup I've ever had, really, with just one monitor, a simple desk with no storage, which I think is actually a better solution because you don't accumulate things. And so this desk is a standing desk. It will raise up and down via the push of a button. And I do have some presets for how I like my setup. And don't judge me, I haven't done a lot of cable management in that sense, but I think I want to drill my power supply or drill the cables in underneath the desk. It is thin, but very strong. So we'll look into that one a little bit down the road. But because I don't have those drawers to get storage space, I have this storage solution right here, which, oh, it looks like my hard drive is coming out of. But this is a whiteboard. I love to write notes on it if I'm on a call or if I have something pop into my head that I need to write down. I will put it on here. But it does open up, as you can see, and reveals a lot of storage, and I have filled it up to the brim, but it is very useful and just like a random thing you can get at like anywhere, like Marshall's, Amazon. It's just like one of those things that you think is kind of a junk gift in the clearance section, which it kind of was, but I've realized is very useful. And yeah, that is my low-tech solution here to no storage. Now, of course, what is powering this setup? Well, we have, as I've alluded to, a Apple MacBook Pro 14-inch with the M1 Pro chip. So I got this back in 2021 when it came out, and let me tell you, it is probably the single best piece of tech I've purchased over the years. And that's saying a lot because even if you haven't watched my videos, I am the type of person who buys a lot of tech, and I love tech, and I just love having the newest thing. And I actually don't have the newest thing. As you may well know, there are newer MacBook Pros now with M3 Pro and Max chips, but this laptop has been so good. It does have 16 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. It is the undimmed version, so it's the M1 Pro at its maximum capacity for performance. And I just love this thing. The display is fantastic, touchpad is fantastic, keyboard is fantastic, design is great, has all the ports I need with SD cards, multiple USB-Cs, HDMI. Let me tell you how important just having an HDMI port is. It does have the kind of like MagSafe connector where if you knock into it, it'll come off because it is magnetic. I actually don't use that one very often because I'm always using USB-C. But in any case, this laptop has also been a performance powerhouse. The battery life is fantastic, and it almost never gets hot. The fans never turn on. I can be video editing 4K 60 frames per second footage with, let's say I'll have some title animations, multiple overlays and color correction and everything. And it handles it really well. And I'll even edit off of 2 terabyte Samsung 7 drive and it'll still handle it no problem. This laptop has killed it over the years. I have had the Apple MacBook Pro, the 15.6 inch, I believe it was 15.6 inch. That was it was the previous generation to this laptop. It was the one that was out right before. I had the i7 really spec'd out version. It was very expensive and it sucked in comparison because that one would get super hot, the fans would turn on, the performance was just not as good as this one, and the battery life was horrible. I would video edit for 30 minutes to an hour and it would be dead. And so in comparison, this thing is insane. Also, I did have an issue with the keyboard on that 15-inch MacBook Pro, which many people did as well, with the barely moving kind of butterfly keys, which this one has no issue with because this one has great keys. So a lot of people have these new M-powered chips, and I truly believe they're fantastic, and they're gonna get Apple Intelligence in the fall, which will make it even better. So I'm really excited about that, but that's what's powering this whole thing, this whole channel, my college career as well, and even when I was working at Goldman Sachs. So this computer is an absolute winner. I was a Windows guy for all my life, and now I truly believe this is a one and done device. This is fantastic, and you really don't need much else. And of course, I couldn't end this video without talking about my guy, Lewis Hamilton. I keep this right by my desk or on my desk, and it actually has a piece of film of one of his races at Silverstone, which is the race happening this weekend, the Grand Prix. And so that's my guy. I usually have some F1 memorabilia or merch around my desk. I'll have a Formula One car made out of Legos on my desk sometimes. And that's really all that changes. So as far as the core setup, I try to keep it simple. I'll have all the products linked below. I thank you again for watching. I hope you got some value, found a couple things that are uncommon as part of my setup. You've learned a few things, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Please like and subscribe. I would love to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It's been a long journey. Thank you again, and I'll see ya.